Hey,
My turn to do minutes, Barbara?
it is, Bob. Thank you. That was going to be the first thing I was going to ask.
Sure, I got it.
After I called the meeting to order. The other thing I want to ask is that everyone help me remember that when we get to the end of the meeting, even if there's nobody in the room, we need to see if there's anybody on Zoom who wants to make a public comment. I adjourned last month's meeting without doing that, and there was someone who wanted to make a comment, and I felt so bad afterwards. Let me know, because I mean, but honestly, I started thinking about it. I'm like, that last month was the first meeting where I was chairing a meeting where there was no one in the public, and I'm not used to the whole, I got to look at the Zoom room too. So anyway, I'm asking that everybody help me remember. So appreciate that. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the approval of the December 14th minutes. Any discussion about that?
Yeah, it's good. Thank you for making the edits.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah. You good too, Bob?
No problem.
Super. All right, so they're approved and they can be posted on the website. Thanks. The next item on the agenda is the parking controller job description and hiring process. And I think this, Samantha, is just more informational for us, I think. Is there anything that you want us to consider or talk about today?
No, good morning to everyone. No, that really was just more, to make sure the committee knew. I mean, you're all on council, but make sure the committee and the public knew that, this is the job description council will be considering tomorrow night. And I think for the hiring process, I think that's something that, unless the committee feels strongly otherwise, that with this job description that myself and Chief Gallagher can handle internally. But if the committee feels strongly it needs to have some sort of role in the process, I'm, open to discussing that.
Bob, Rob, do you have any?
No, I feel that it's more appropriate for the administrative staff to do the hiring process that makes sense to them. And the council does not need to be involved in this particular hiring.
Super. I agree, and I think you're getting nods all around, so good luck.
Thanks. Like we talked about before, I think the goal that Chief Gallagher and I are going to have is, I don't know. I don't know at this point if we'll be able to make the January 19th business meeting, but I would hope that at the February work session, council would be able to, confirm someone for the position.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. That would certainly be lovely. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the parking payment technology options, and you had some questions that you sent out to Park Mobile, and I see they replied just a couple days ago. What would you like us to consider here with this?
Yeah, I think, the big sticking point for me is either there was a misunderstanding or I got a little bit of what I'll call salesperson semantics, and that, when I had the original conversation with them, I feel pretty certain, when I asked about fees, that I was told there wouldn't be any fees to the borough. But I think what was word for word said to me was there wouldn't be any fees to the borough from Park Mobile. And, in my opinion, that's a distinction without a difference. Because so with Park Mobile, I got the actual contract from Park Mobile, and it included, this fee for the credit card processing, which I totally understand that those fees exist and are a thing. But I was under the impression that Park Mobile was already capturing those costs and the fee they charge to the user for the service. So that makes it a little more complicated because the challenge for the borough is if we're having to pay a fee for credit card processing, like the fee we charge right now for parking, we can't change the actual meters themselves. And the good news is, I mean, this might be more of a more in-depth conversation for a future meeting, but the rate we charge right now for the commercial meters, in my opinion, is like, it is sufficient to capture the cost of the parking controller's salary, the overhead costs of the borough, da 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 da. But if we were to throw credit card fees on top of that, I don't think that would really work if we're paying like, I'm going off memory here, but I think the Park Mobile contract, if we did it through them, would be like 20 cents per transaction or something, something like
3%.
that.
20 cents per transaction. I don't know what the 3% is of, but
3% of the fee, of the credit card fee.
I'm guessing.
Standard, well, that's.
He didn't say.
No, but that's standard.
Okay,
credit
thank
cards
you,
are
Bob.
processed.
I don't know, because I don't ever have to pay them. The merchants pay them.
Merchant, I mean, as a merchant.
You
like,
know.
I understand.
Yeah.
I've reviewed many of these
Yeah.
deals, and like, that's actually a pretty high fee, but it's standard.
Okay.
But Samantha, are you certain that, that what they're saying in that statement is that the borough would pay 3% on top of the fees that the customer's already paying, or is it just deducted, is it just skimmed off of the customer's charge? Because that's, I think, I read it that the fee was that the 3% and the 20 cents were skimmed off the customer charge, so the borough, theoretically, the borough wouldn't be having to come up with any money at the end of every month, but that it was just being already called from the fees that were charged.
Yeah, well, that is correct. I mean, we would still effectively be paying it. It just, we wouldn't be writing them a check. It would just be coming out of the money they would give us.
Right, and the fee, I mean, and I guess I don't see that. I don't think I'm understanding your why that's particularly a sticking point, because we could just charge a little more for a credit card.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where the whole rigmarole I had was going, was that I think in order to make Park Mobile work, we would have to have the fee that we have, the 50 cents, generally 50 cents per hour at the meters if you're paying with actual quarters. But I do think we would have to have a slightly higher fee to capture those, credit card processing costs the borough would have to pay if people are opting to use Park Mobile instead.
Gotcha.
And that seems like, to me, as like a Park Mobile user for many years, like, it seems kind of like that's sort of the expectation. Like, every time I use Park Mobile, I assume it's at least going to be $1. Even if I'm parking for 20 minutes. Pretty much anywhere, even in small towns.
But it's a convenience, right?
It's a convenience, because I don't have to get out a quarter and find it, and I can just go on my phone and it's a simple transaction. Does that square with your understanding of that?
Yeah, and as someone as well who's used Park Mobile in lots of different places, I would agree with that as well.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but it sounds like if you're going to do the reservation parking that they said they could do, like say visitor parking, that kind of thing, that those transactions are going to be at least $1, and currently those are free. But I also didn't see the problem with that. If a person has to pay $1 to park because they're working at someone's home, like that's not.
What kind of work do you mean?
outrageous.
Because I thought we said, if you have a plumber coming to your house, you don't have to have a pass for that.
Well,
We said in the ordinance.
I guess that would be. I mean, I'm talking about someone, say like just a home health aide or somebody like that.
Gotcha.
Who's just coming in a car.
Babysitter.
It's not a babysitter, someone who's not in a commercial vehicle.
Gotcha.
Their plates would be scanned, and the only way they wouldn't be ticketed is if they had a permission, you know, after 2 hours
Yes,
of
pass.
being there. If they had a pass, and since currently those are free, with the Park Mobile system, they would cost the borough $1, or they would have to cost the customer, the parker $1. And that's why I'm skipping ahead, because I'm just saying like that seems reasonable to me.
I know, but Samantha, help me out here, because I'm getting very confused with what we said at last month's meeting, and so I'm like, I think I need to create now a cheat sheet of what is in the minutes, because I'm not going to remember from time to time. But I thought we said Park Mobile wouldn't be the solution for guest passes, residential permit parking, that would still be UPS system that we would do that through.
Yeah, Wall Park Mobile, yeah, you can, that might have been me just trying to gather too much information. You can almost ignore those questions I asked about what that reservation thing was. I saw it in the contract that they sent over and wanted to know what it was. And yeah, that's referring to Park Mobile could provide that service, but it's something we're already able to offer through our existing services that we have, which would not result, as far as I know, Michelle might know better than me, but as far as I understand, it would not have any additional fees. So I think if we were, I guess where I've landed on this is in terms of using technology, Park Mobile is great for the parking meters, as well as long as we're willing to charge a little bit more to cover the credit card processing fees, and that our existing software can be molded to work for our other technology needs beyond the parking meters.
Okay. That you're causing me to think of something then. So when people get a sticker for a 2-hour zone because they live in the 2-hour zone, how do they pay for that? Do they, right now, I don't think they can pay for it online, right? Okay, so if we want to move to, if we eventually have this system borough-wide, not just in the places where there are 2-hour zones, aren't we going to want people to be able to pay online because of the volume? So are we going to need a credit card processor? Because, in the answer that Matt sent you about the merchant of record, he says if you already had a credit card processor, then they wouldn't have, you wouldn't be dealing with them for these fees. Or is that not, do I just not understand how some of this stuff works?
I think I would have to go through the UP safety contract to see what those fees would be.
Okay.
We can do that through UP safety the same way, sign up online, pay your permit fee very easily. We already have the system set it up. All we have to do is add those permits. But as far as the fees go, I don't know. I wasn't involved with the original contract.
Sure.
So I have a note that I'm going to go ask them
Super.
to see what those credit card fees would be.
Super. Because I'm thinking, aren't we going to have to pay something like that at some point, probably? Or somebody is.
So when I read the question there, Samantha, in your exchange with the Park Mobile person, I assumed you were rethinking whether or not we would want to use Park Mobile. Like, I just assumed you were rethinking that we might use Park Mobile for those reservations rather than continuing to use the system we have because that we could charge a fee and because it's sort of self-managing. And I just think Chairperson Fortner, I think it would be worthwhile just talking about it for 2 minutes. Again, but just reopening that subject for 2 minutes, because one of the values that we all agreed to in our comprehensive plan is that the space on the street has value to all of the residents. And if we provide unlimited free parking to people who are working in the borough, which is fine if that's our value, that's fine to do that. But if we do that, it does incentivize driving your car when you're to the borough when you're working in the borough, as opposed to taking the train or finding an alternative means of transportation to the borough because it's free. You know, there are people who work in the borough who take the bus here because they don't even own a car.
Sure.
And it costs them $1 every time they get on the bus. And that supports the public transportation system.
So-
To me, like, just because you can jump in your car to come and work in the borough, you're not supporting any, you're just using the road and the street, and you're not paying anything for that privilege.
Bob, I don't disagree with you, but can I stop real quick? You started out with, if we're going to give unlimited parking to workers. And I guess I'm unclear as to, we haven't even talked about that yet.
Well, I'm
I'm
saying.
not sure why you're,
Because we did settle on, we did agree at an earlier meeting that visitor permits would be free for people who were working, in.
no.
Because that's the current system, that's the
Well,
status.
No, that's not the current system.
It isn't, but it's
How much
also,
do they pay?
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. So the current system is that if someone's doing like a building permit related kind of thing, so if someone's like, I don't know, like a contractor is doing something, then they don't have to pay a permit fee. But like someone who works in a retail store in the borough is subject to all this, or home health aid or anything like that, since that was an example mentioned earlier. All those sort of folks are subject to all the same sort of, rules as all the rest of us. Just someone who's doing something that requires a building permit or zoning permit that currently doesn't. And I'm not saying that's the right thing either. I'm just saying that's what the current system is.
yeah. So, and I think it's perfectly reasonable if we want to reconsider that. But the thing that I'll bring us back to is that we had made a decision a while ago that we were not going to change anything more than we needed to kind of test everything out in the existing 2-hour zones that we have. So we were going to change the fee structure and maybe some other things, but we didn't want to change too much because we wanted to see how that worked. So I don't think at this point it's that we're at a place where we would say, oh, we want to restructure everything, because that would require an ordinance change if we wanted to now start charging for that, because at least you told me that was written into the ordinance when the guest passes were set up. That
You have to ask Samantha.
yeah, but even if, so we can certainly look at that. But I guess what
Well, that's sufficient for me.
yeah,
That's
okay.
sufficient.
And I still think I'd like to just hear from Samantha whether she thinks we should be looking at Park Mobile to do more than just what's here. It really sounds like you've already considered that, Samantha, and decided that's really not the right way to go. That Park Mobile isn't the solution for all of our issues or all of our technology needs.
Yeah, I don't think, as much as I would love to have one solution for everything, I think that the like the United Public Safety System we already have is, no matter what, is going to be a part of the of things going forward, because because we have to use it for parking tickets and that sort of thing. So I think some combination, it's going to be some combination of Park Mobile and United Public Safety, I think, can address all the things that have been brought up, including Council Member Weisbord has brought up some really good thoughts about how technology can make things better over the past few meetings. And I think between those two services, we can get a lot of that done, but I don't think either one of them alone is going to be able to do it. So with Park Mobile, the contract they proposed does include the reservation system features. And that's what sparked me to ask them about it. So I think my proposal for today is that if we had some agreed upon price for metered parking when someone is using Park Mobile to present to council, that would give me the information I need for us to go ahead and start moving forward with Park Mobile. And then we can continue the conversation as to whether Park Mobile or United Public Safety is the better tool to address everything else we're trying to do.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So do you have a suggestion, Samantha, for, what we should consider as an increased price for?
Yeah, looking at the fee from again, looking at that fee from Park Mobile, the 20 cents and the 3%. My thought would be that someone using Park Mobile, so someone paying with quarters would continue to pay 50 cents per hour. Someone using Park Mobile would have to pay the borough 75 cents per hour, plus the plus the per transaction Park Mobile, 35 cent fee. So basically, if you're parking for the borough in an hour, you'd be paying about $1.
Is the 35-cent Park Mobile fee, is that I somehow missed bringing the Park Mobile, part of the Park Mobile stuff with me that I thought I had. Refresh my memory, is that a flat fee that they have
That is.
from the credit card processing?
Yeah, that's a separate flat fee per transaction. So it doesn't matter if you're parked for, depending on the meter, obviously, whether you're parked for an hour, 2 hours, or 5 hours.
Okay, so that's their flat fee. So the 75 cents that you're suggesting is adding on the credit card processing fee.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Was Samantha suggesting 75 cents or $1?
Well, she's saying $1 in total, but she was describing how she got there. So like about 75 cents for the parking plus the credit card, the 50 cents parking plus credit card processing fee on top of that. And then Park Mobile has a 35 cent per transaction that they're collecting from the person who parks. So say $1 instead of $1.05, say $1.
35 cents. It was 3% plus 20 cents.
That's the credit card processing
and then
fee.
on top of that, there's an additional 35 cents?
That the person who's parking pays to Park Mobile. That's how Park Mobile makes
That
their...
would put us closer to $1.05, I guess, or
Yeah, $1.10, $1.15,
Yeah.
$1.10. But yeah, so yeah, the 30,
Okay,
the
that's
35.
where I got lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
So, but
Yeah.
you would feel comfortable, Manager Bryant, you'd feel comfortable rounding that down to $1?
Sorry, that might have just been like the fever talking. My math may have been wrong on that one. So yeah, I think basically what I'm saying is I think the borough fee should be 75 cents per hour for people using Park Mobile. And, then that covers, all the borough's cost of doing that. Now, I mean, I think the next iteration of the conversation is, we've talked a bit about, again, going back to that point that was mentioned about the value of parking and providing funds for additional streetscape enhancement, that kind of thing. I think that's a conversation to have down the line. But for today, if we wanted to keep, the system basically as is, but allow people the option to pay the parking meters with credit cards, and at least make that step forward, I would recommend we change the fee to for the credit card to 75 cents per hour.
So okay, I'm sorry, I'm still confused
So
about the fees. So I guess, so Barbara was saying that the credit card fee is 20 cents flat, plus the 3%.
I don't know. Can I ask the question in a different way, Bob?
Ask the question, go for it.
Thank you.
You have the same question.
I did, yeah. So the 75 cents is the 50 cents that you were paid if you're using cash. And correct me if I'm wrong, Samantha, in saying this. Plus some money so that the borough gets recouped for the credit card processing fee.
Yes.
So then is there an additional fee that I, as the parking person, you know, the person parking the car, running the credit card through, is going to see? Am I going to see 75 cents on my credit card statement? Or am I going to see something more than that because there's an additional amount that Park Mobile attaches?
Right.
that.
You're going to see more than if the borough's fee is 75 cents per hour. You're going to see a little bit more than that because you're going to see 75 cents per hour plus a, a per transaction fee from Park Mobile of, let me make sure I have that number right. I'm looking through the contract right now. I want to say it was 35 cents. Let's see here. Yeah, on-demand user fee, 35 cents per transaction. So if you were parking for 1 hour, you would be paying $1.10. If you're parking for 2 hours, you would pay $1.85.
Okay, that does clarify it. So it's an after fee that the user sees as a separate line.
Yes. So on
It's
our
not built into the fee. It's not built into the cost of the parking.
right. So
Right.
on our meter, would the sign say, 50 cents if you're using quarters, 75 cents if you're using a credit card, plus the Park Mobile's fee? I mean, do we say something like that?
I think the challenge with that is then we're looking at I don't think Park Mobile provides custom signage. Everywhere else I've ever been, the signage that Park Mobile provides put on the meter just has it just has the zone number for Park Mobile. It doesn't say what the fee is to use it.
Okay. Okay.
So the borough would have to separately come up with that if we wanted to do that.
I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I was thinking that there exists, this is where I need to go park somewhere where there's Park Mobile so I can look at it and see.
I
I've
think people
never
would
used
just,
it.
in their app, I think, right? I haven't used it recently, but I think they would see it in the app.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I wonder if you see it in there and it says, hey, this is what you're going to pay. And so I guess what I was thinking of is if there's a person who is comparing, looking at a meter and saying, oh, I own, 75 cents, and then they look at their statement later and it's $1.10, are they going to be like, what the?
Well, for meter parking, it's a reasonable expectation that, well, you're getting the convenience of using Park Mobile. That's a deal between you and Park Mobile when you download the app, right?
Yeah.
For other parking, and I realize we're not proposing this now because we're just trying to replace the existing system. We're trying to keep things the same. But in future, if we do go to Park Mobile in areas where there aren't parking meters currently, then it's not the same comparison because then the expectation, then the customer doesn't have a choice. They have to choose Park Mobile if they want to park there. I guess it's the same difference. I'm overthinking it. Never mind.
It's okay. All right. This has been really helpful, even though I feel like
I'm just, for the purpose of the meeting minutes, though,
Yeah.
I'm writing here fees for using Park Mobile. Under the heading of our discussion about the fees for using Park Mobile, I'm just writing that currently it's 50%, a 50-cent cash meter fee, right? And
75 cents to use
and
Park
that the
Mobile.
fees generated, that the commercial meters are sufficient to cover the cost of the parking controller's salary and other costs. Park Mobile credit card fees would need to be a little more if we intend to cover the credit card fees too. Therefore, the credit card meter fee would be 75 cents plus a Park Mobile transaction fee. I'm not even going to say what it is. I'm just going to say plus a Park Mobile transaction fee.
Well, and I almost feel like you don't even need to say that because that's between Park Mobile and the person
Okay.
deciding to use Park Mobile. Because where I was trying to get is what's our advertised rate? And our advertised rate would be 50 cents per hour if you pay cash, 75 cents per hour if you use credit card. Is that a fair statement, Samantha?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like, those are our rates. Because down the,
We already deal with that a little bit with the payment of parking tickets, for example. if someone comes to the office and pays a parking ticket via cash or check, it's whatever the stated fee is. But if they pay it online through United Public Safety, there's like I think $2.50 charge added onto it.
Maybe that will be the answer to the question of if we were using UPS
The
for
permits.
people, to allow people to pay for their 2-hour zone parking permit, maybe it is $2.50 per transaction. I'd be,
Can you repeat that detail? I'm sorry, it just went by me and I
Yeah.
don't want to miss that.
okay, so what Samantha said is that if someone is paying a parking ticket online, so using a credit card, and that's what we use UPS safety for, is pay parking tickets. They get charged $2.50 for using their credit card by UPS because they are being charged by the credit card company to process it. And I said, well, maybe that's, to Michelle, maybe that's the answer to the question, but it'll be interesting to see what the contract says. But that might be the answer to our question of if you were allowing people to pay for their residential parking permits through UPS safety, would it be a $2.50 per transaction charge to use your credit card? Which, I would think that would be acceptable to someone who wants to use their credit card. That's not a horrible fee. Okay. Samantha, is there anything else you'd like us to consider about Park Mobile? It sounds like everyone here is in agreement with the 75 cents an hour for credit card usage. Is there anything else you'd like us to consider about the technology?
No, that's great. And I really appreciate your time on it. So I'll continue to work with the borough solicitor to make sure that he and I don't have any legal concerns about the contract. But in terms of the content, I think we're good. And as long as there's no legal red flags, I'll plan to present that to council at the business meeting on the 19th.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I'm just making a note. So, okay, super. Okay. Municipal lot parking. Samantha, there's some things you'd like us to talk about. We had a little bit of a conversation about that last month, about what we might do at 100 Conway and 201 Sabine, but we didn't come to any real conclusions, I don't feel. And I'm not 100% sure, where we should go now.
Yeah, I guess basically what I'm looking for from the committee is to, be able for us all to present to council some kind of recommendation on the use of each of those lots and the appropriate use, so that way council can take the appropriate, action to actually make that happen.
Okay, so I think, your recommendation from last month was that we not allow overnight parking at 100 Conway, but we allow some overnight parking at 201 Sabine. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, my initial thought, which I really haven't had much of a chance to re-examine, but my kind of opening proposal for the committee to consider is at 100 Conway, no overnight parking would be allowed, period. No, and then, otherwise no other fees or charges would be, applied for people parking there. And then at 201 Sabine, that we would create some sort of permit system to allow paid permit system to allow for, some sort of overnight parking over there. And I really appreciate the history that Councilmember Weisbord provided on some of that and why we have some of the parking we do and some of the changes we made in the past that led to that, since the borough doesn't allow like larger vehicles and stuff to park on street. And to So yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, and I think it should be charged per space at 201 Sabine. So if someone had a vehicle or whatever that could fit in one space, then they'd pay for that. But if they had something that was so, large that needed multiple spaces to fit in, well, then they, have to pay the borough for multiple, permits, so to speak.
And I think that makes sense because that gets you out of having to try to figure out, well, how big a boat can you park?
Mm-hmm.
And when does your boat become oversized and we have to charge you more or whatever? It just gets.
Or your shed, or
Well, I think the shed needs to be gone.
there's stuff up there. It's hard to know whether it belongs to the borough or to or maybe like one of the contractors using the lot. Like for a while there was an enormous pile of like pavers.
Oh.
Bluestone pavers. They're pretty nice, like 2x3s. Then they sort of started disappearing a little bit at a time.
Somebody's using them.
Noticed, because I would go up and water the trees at Sabine. And I mean, was that the borough stuff?
I've strongly encouraged our new public works manager that only items absolutely essential to Sabine Park should be really stored up there, and that everything else needs to kind of make its way back home, so to speak, to the public works, lot over at 100 Conway.
Including stuff like loads of gravel and.
Yeah.
There was stuff like that there too, like from time to time, like just. It looked like somebody was using it as laydown space for different kinds of gravel and sand. And
No, I mean that was the borough. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think really what is needed in this moment is probably an inventory of what's there to see what of it is the borough's and can be brought back to 100 Conway. And then once we know that, or is the borough's but needs to stay up there for some reason. Once we know that, then we can start trying to find out, who is the owner of all the other stuff that's up there? Because there's some stuff that's up there.
I would argue that anything, this might be too harsh of a view and may not make me popular people, but I would argue anyone who has anything unsecured at 201 Sabine, I mean, that is the borough's property. And anything that is unsecured at 201 Sabine, I'm basically going to treat as if it is the borough's property unless I'm told otherwise.
And I think that's perfectly fair. I would say that maybe there should be a warning of some kind, and the only way to warn may be to put signs up down there that, if this is your stuff, we're going to be taking it away in a month, so take it now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think whatever we do at both lots, I do think there does need to be some sort of, signage warning period for people involved to, take away any belongings, move any vehicles, apply for permits, yeah.
Look for, if you've been parking overnight at 100 Conway, look for another place because you're going to have to move your vehicle. Yeah. I think we have to notify that. But
we would still allow for snow emergency parking, right?
That's what I was going to ask. So are there some other things we want to consider?
Yeah, I think I would be fine. I would be fine with waiving any of those regulations in the event of a snow emergency.
That makes sense. Okay. So that was leading me to where I was going, which was to see Bob and Rob as a committee. Do we feel comfortable with at 100 Conway, no overnight parking and no fees for daytime parking? It would just be, it's a municipal lot for using the municipal spaces down here. And then at 201 Sabine, there are overnight parking with fees for the number of spaces that you're using. Again, there wouldn't be fees for daytime parking because that's parking for the tenants of 201 Sabine and the folks using 201 Sabine Park. And then, you know, the restrictions, the fees would be waived if we had a snow emergency. So you could overnight park at either place. Is that a good summary of the policy? We're comfortable with that. Okay. And I guess then we're talking about when we put this system in, having a grace period of, what, a month? Does a month sound long enough to give people time to move their vehicle or apply for permits? It seems long enough to me, assuming that the person who is parking something is still in the borough and not down in Florida. They park their car there while they're in Florida for the winter or something. But in that case, you know, I don't have a problem if the police have to look up the license plate and contact the person and say, hey.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to suggest, is that we would, run the plates on anything parked in either lot right now and send a, formal letter to the owner.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea, because then we're notifying them for sure. And so the only thing that maybe that we're depending on the person seeing the sign for is some of the stuff that's up at 201 Sabine that's not vehicles, like the shed, where there's a bunch of metal stuff. I don't even know what they are up there. I was like, what is that stuff? So, all right.
And I think even any, kind of thinking long term as well, or short or long, I don't know what the right term for it is, but even if the borough is storing any of our own stuff up there at 201 Sabine, the idea of it being unsecured does not make me feel great.
I agree, yeah. Even if it's something big and heavy that would be hard for somebody to take, away and, I don't know, use or something, there's always a danger that kids could hurt themselves playing on stuff. So it's like, you don't need it. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. Okay, so the way we would notify people is both by sending them letters, but we can also put up signs that say effective, whatever, time this is going to be, this is what's going to happen, and so you need to take some action. So, and I think it would be good if we had at least a month as a grace period there. So, I guess after we get this approved by council, then it would be effective like a month after that. Does that make sense? Samantha, how does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
So I think the next question is really, what do we want the fee to be for overnight parking at 201 Sabine?
I don't know if I don't really have much, free market experience with this sort of thing. So maybe it's something borough staff need to research, but I don't know. The number of like $100 per month per space just seemed like kind of like the right amount to me, but maybe just because it was like a nice even sort of number. Again, admittedly, I have no experience out in the private sector of what it costs to, rent parking.
I have a little experience, but no recent experience, but that kind of has the right feel to me, because, so I had like a boat for a little while, 10 years ago, and for a little while I left it on Grayling, like on the circle in Grayling, and then I realized, well, I can't really be putting this boat on the borough streets, and it never occurred to me that I could put it at Sabine Avenue for free. So I actually ended up shopping around and finding a space in Delaware.
Oh my.
That was like $70 or something. Now that was 10 years ago. So, that's kind of like, that's a market study from 7 years ago. That's what it would cost to, say, park a boat. But if you have a commercial vehicle or a car, like, it's going to be significantly more expensive. Like, and especially if you want access to it from day to day, you really pay premium for that.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know, Samantha, that just feels right. But I agree with you. It would be good if the staff kind of maybe brought that up to date.
Yeah.
kind of justification for it.
Yeah, and we also, didn't we discuss the possibility of a waiver for people in the trades who may need to park a vehicle for their work? Didn't we discuss that?
If they're residents.
If they're residents.
Would there be a different fee for residents than, say, non-residents? Because, or maybe it's only
residents.
only residents are allowed to have a permit parking there.
That's what I
But
would,
even commercial people, it's like, I know people who, like I know a tree guy who lives on Woodbine Avenue on the Lower Merion side, and he can't park his dumpster truck and his dump truck and his chipper and his other equipment over there, even though he lives on that part of Narberth on Woodbine. So he rents space in Conshohocken or in Manioc, like where he has to keep he rents a whole yard where he has to park his equipment, and like that's sort of the cost of doing business. I don't know if it would be different in Narberth because of our history or not, but I
guess I would say from an admittedly very biased standpoint of the person who'd have to, be, not directly responsible, but kind of responsible for implementing and overseeing it. The simpler the system, the better for me. But I also totally understand where the committee is kind of thinking with this.
I mean, 10 years ago, I would have agreed with Rob and said, like, absolutely, we should give borough people who live in the borough who have work trucks or something that they can't park on the street, we should give them an accommodation. But like pretty much those people are gone.
yeah.
That's not the world we live in anymore. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there were tons of work trucks on the street. And it was not even a question, like we wouldn't have even been having this conversation.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I think now the ones that, if there are work trucks, like I'm thinking a neighbor of mine, his is just a big van. It's not anything bigger than some of the,
Right.
The Chevy Suburbans that people can park on the street.
Right.
Is that a work truck? No, we don't define that as a work truck. So, I think you don't see the dump trucks.
Right,
and that
it's a
kind of-
big demographic change.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I'm thinking of too is you're pointing out, Bob, that they're already having to find parking somewhere, and I would presume that whatever we charge at 201 Sabine is probably not going to be as expensive as if you were paying to a private. Like, I'm thinking about the apartments here that have parking garages, and what do they charge a month for a car? It's got to be more than $100, or people would not be parking on the street. They'd be renting those. I know I would be, because I wouldn't want to have to park on the street. But I'm like, are they charging like $300 a month?
Right. In fact, Freel had to keep some of their trucks on Grayling, on the 200 block of Grayling in garages back there.
Oh.
I only know that because you see them come and go, like when it's, like plow trucks.
Yeah. They must rent that garage.
They rent the garages back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's other places in the borough like that too.
Yes.
That's right, those are expensive.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to believe $100 per month is probably not expensive. It's probably, quite reasonable. But it'll be interesting to see what the research shows.
And also keep in mind too, I mean, we want to have some basis in the private sector, but just the usual disclaimer from a borough employee of that fees are generally intended to recoup cost. So the main goal in charging a fee would be to recoup the borough's time administering it, as well as, to help pay for the wear and tear on the parking lot of 201 Sabine.
Right. Which is why we wouldn't be charging, in the same range as someone who's trying to profit off of that, of parking, renting out parking spaces.
But I just want to say as we think about this in the out years, that I think when we start talking about, say, fees for commuters or fees for on-street use, like when we start considering new parking policies that are borough-wide, I think we could justify costs around street trees and stormwater improvements and infrastructure improvements that are, I think ththose can be, unless I'm misunderstanding.
No, I agree with that.
Okay, I'm not sure if I was misunderstanding the law, but,
No, I agree with that.
okay.
I was thinking more of just we just want to make some money off of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not.
But the idea is that we would be plowing this money back into
Exactly.
the borough. right?
Exactly. And I just wanted to make sure that was on the public record. Yeah, while we were talking about this.
We're not looking to just have more money in our general fund. If we are, the fees would be, as Samantha pointed out, you need to first cover your costs of having that. But then if we had more fees on top of that, it would be for specific things that benefited the streetscape.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the sentence that kind of ties it all together, I just want to put out there on the recording for anyone who watches this in the future is right as of today, we have a situation where people are parking in the parking lot 201 Sabine for private use, and the public is not getting any recompense for the costs of the borough to provide that to those people.
Yep.
Thank you. That's really well said.
And when you consider that some of what's parked up there is pretty big and heavy trucks sometimes, that's definite wear and tear on that parking lot.
So it sounds like my next steps or the staff's next steps is, just to at least get a sense of what the cost of the borough would be for it and the cost of, of similar services in the area to as a sanity check. And, I'll start talking to the borough solicitor about what actual paperwork and documents and all that we'd actually have to do to make all this happen. And we'll start actually getting start getting things together around what we just talked about in this conversation. And I'll come back to the committee as there's stuff to report and as we have actual documents for council to review and approve, we can work through that process.
Super. Is there anything that should be done right now about the things that are parked there? Like, I'm just thinking, is there anything that the police could start to do to be ready? Like, I guess you can't really notify these people until we know when things are gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the situation's has been what it's been for as long as it's been. And if it's that way for another month or two, the borough will survive.
Yeah, I know. I was just kind of thinking, is there anything else that could be being worked on at the same time to just keep things moving? But yeah, unless, again, if there's I walked through there, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I was dropping off some glass for the recycling thing that's up there that the Shift and the EAC have started doing. And I didn't see that there were any trucks with weeds growing in the beds of them anymore. But if there's a vehicle that looks like it's been there forever, I think the police could be trying to contact the person, regardless of whether we adopt this policy soon or not.
So the challenge for the police, so I've had to deal with this here in Narberth as well as other places, is in terms of I'm making air quotes as I say this, junk vehicles. Is as long as a vehicle has a current registration, it really limits what the police can do. And the police have periodically gone out to 201 Sabine to check the plates and registration status of the vehicles up there. But as long as those stay current, unless the borough does pass rules like what we're talking about, the police really can't do much about it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So it's even more important for us to have a policy up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Super. All right, thanks, Samantha. This is, I feel like we're, this feels like the bridge in some ways. Like, there's a lot to do and lots of things, but we're going to start seeing stuff move, where things can go to council. So I'm really thankful to everyone on the committee and to Samantha and Michelle for getting us to that place. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Samantha.
Yeah, if I may just on that point, just point out to the committee the work the things that are happening because of it. I mean, we council is going to be approving the ordinance, it's been advertised. Council's going to approve the ordinance to actually allow us to properly issue citations, thanks to the work of this committee. At the meeting at the 19th, council will probably be able to implement the proposal so people can pay for metered parking with credit cards in the borough, which I think will be a step forward. We're making good progress on, on this issue of the municipal lot parking, which I think will come to council in February. And, we're continuing our discussions on how to do the residential permit parking and how to use technology to make that easier and better for residents. And hopefully maybe by, if January is dealing with Park Mobile and February is dealing with the municipal lots, maybe March, might be about when we can get something to council for, for all the things we've been talking about, the residential lots. So,
yeah, that would be my hope too, because, I'm looking at our time and I'm like, well, we're not going to get a chance to talk about residential parking today, but that's okay. Because I think when we come to our next meeting, there's not going to be a lot that we have to talk about, around the parking controller or the parking payment technologies. We may be, having a little bit of conversation about the municipal lot parking and where that's going, but I feel like we've settled all the parameters for that. So I think at our January 25th meeting, we'll be able to talk a lot about residential parking. So that would be great. And then starting in February, we're meeting on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays at 9 a.m. So we'll have 2 meetings in February. So yeah, it should put us into good shape for hopefully taking something to council in March on residential parking.
And then as we look out at the future of the work of the parking committee, will we get to the private parking lots feasibility of sharing public parking, like sort of later in the spring or towards summer? Or like, where do you see that kind of coming?
I don't know yet, because I don't really know how long it'll take us to work through. I mean, I hope that it would certainly be by then.
Because I have a question for the committee or for the manager, really, for Samantha.
Sure.
Would it be helpful if it's pretty easy to put together a kind of an inventory of the parking lots and the number of parking spaces in each one, sort of in the private parking lots adjacent to the downtown. Would that be helpful to have? Because I would do it. I mean, would that be a tool that would be useful for the committee and for the borough staff to have?
So I'm sorry. I guess I'm not sure. Maybe I missed something you said there. What would be the use of that tool?
So that we could discuss what resources are available, and be able to begin to think be able to have discussions with each of those property owners.
Yeah, let's talk offline about that, because I actually have been doing a lot of work on that. We just haven't had time during the committee meeting for me to share it. So maybe if you want, we can talk, either we can make sure at the next meeting I can give an update on that, or we can talk one-on-one, and I can kind of tell you where we're at with that.
Sounds great. Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Well,
Public comment.
yes, thank you. And
Dave Burdos there.
Dave Burdos in the waiting room. So see if he has. David, would you like to make a comment?
This happened last time. I recall you offering the
No.
person online. No?
No, I did not. David,
Oh.
would you like to make a comment? Can you send him Michelle, can you send him
Chad, I
yeah.
don't think that's enabled on this.
Oh. Wonder if he stepped away.
I'm texting him.
Oh, thank you. I don't have his phone number handy. I didn't see that he joined. Thank you, Rob. The last time I looked, it was just Samantha and our room
Yeah,
up there?
yeah.
Yeah, he got in the waiting room like right around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
There, I texted him, let's give him,
Oh.
let's give him a minute.
Oh dear, did he see the time in the newsletter and thought we started at 9?
Well, that was a mess, it
That
was a typo, right?
Yeah,
But we've been meeting at 8,
I know, but, you know, if you, yeah,
then he would be there.
yeah.
Oh, he's there.
But is he right at his computer?
I
Can he
just-
hear us?
I just
Oh,
texted
no.
him, would you like to make public comment?
Yeah.
We are waiting.
Thank you. We shall see. All right, well, I'll just, you know, I refreshed our memories on when we're meeting again. So I don't think there's anything else. We're good. Rob?
Just, Barbara, I just wanted to, just so we can stay coordinated,
Yes.
I think in the public health and safety meeting on Wednesday, we may have a short conversation about EV charging in the street, because there's been at least one application recently from a private homeowner.
To put in a charger.
Yeah, so I just want to keep that on our, we can keep talking about that
Yeah, I
to
have.
coordinate.
Yeah, I have on our list of the working questions that we're using so that we, you know, when we come up with a question, but we're not ready to handle it
Yeah.
at that meeting, this question of if you have an EV charging station space. And this is one that's provided by the borough. I don't know that I'd like to know, you know, does this apply to residential or not? I'm not 100% sure. But if you finish charging your car, do you have to move? What's the amount of time you have to leave your car there before you should be moving it? And to me, that's something that we would require if it's, you know, one of the borough spaces. But I don't know if that's something we would require for a residential person. I just don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's a real question. Like because we don't make any, because if I put in a charger for my use and I'm the only one who can use it, I can't believe that somebody would put in a charger that anybody could plug into. Why would you do that? You'd end up paying for somebody else to charge their car, right? You know.
I'm going to share some information,
Okay.
and I just emailed an article about it.
Okay.
I don't have the answer either. So,
It's one where I was like going, that scratching my head going, I want to put a charger out on the street that anybody could use? I don't think so. Huh. Well, I don't know where David is.
Oh, let's see. if he's
I think we've done everything we can do here.
I mean, I hate to do that to him, but
Yeah, no text back, so.
okay. I mean, he's not, yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint him because obviously he was interested in at least some part of the meeting, so. All right, Bob, could you send him another text and just tell him, you know, the meeting started at 8, so we're wrapping up and we're closing the meeting now, and we're sorry that you weren't able to join us or something like
Yeah, and
that.
he's certainly welcome to reach out, you know, to me or the members of the committee with any follow-up questions.
I let him know that, and he didn't send anything in, so, okay. All right, well, I will adjourn our meeting, and we'll see each other again tomorrow night.
Yeah.
3 days in a row. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.